more about what you mean by that.
Well, it sounds like you're saying it kind of, from our earlier conversations, that it sounds like it kind of started when you moved in.
Mm-hmm.
But I also understand that sometimes when someone moves in, there's like this kind of romantic period where everything's like, oh, this is great, and then something happens. So I guess I'm curious if maybe that was the same pattern, like things were sort of like, oh yeah, we'll do that at some point, not talked about maybe.
I feel like there's kind of, I mean, since kind of day one when he moved in, there's been, both of those have coexisted. There's been that kind of honeymoon phase, although we've been together for quite a while, so to some extent we've kind of moved through that honeymoon phase. But there's still been some components of that when he moved in, but there's also been plenty of balance with, I guess, just more in my face, like how he's choosing to spend his time or how he's choosing to spend his money. But it is tough when you're in a relationship where you see a future, but we're not engaged, we're not married, we don't have shared bank accounts or anything like that. So we're having a lot of conversations about where is that boundary with what's appropriate for me to say, to have an opinion about, and I'm really working on feeling like regardless, I always have the right to express my opinion, but I need to make sure I'm doing it in an appropriate way. And so I think we're doing a really good job with that right now, but that doesn't always get us anywhere, because great, I was able to say it and we had a conversation about it, but if that's all that ever happens with it, then we're kind of back to square one. So
hence the day-to-day sort of feeling.
Yeah, and I think the only reason this stuff's on my mind right now is like I was saying, I was gone all day yesterday, and he had a really tough day at work and needed a night where he did nothing, and in theory I respect that, but just came in and like the house was trashed, and he bought groceries earlier in the night, which was really wonderful, but had gotten distracted and forgot to put most of them away. And so I came in, he was playing video games, and there were a bunch of groceries on the counter that had been out for 4 or 5 hours, and that kind of cool, you were partially there, but now a lot of this stuff actually has to be thrown out, and so that kind of frustration of I don't know, that stuff that I'm I want to be patient, but good God, come on, get your shit together. Let's edit that out.
And so it sounds like time management is maybe the biggest issue right at this moment.
Yeah, maybe that's what some of it comes down to, is that I feel like I am juggling a lot in life right now, and not that it's any less important the work he's doing, but I just have a lot more going on right now, and so maybe I'm feeling like I'm just not being met with as much help as I would kind of like with some of that.
Yeah, so you're juggling a lot right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds like you need more help.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, that's probably that's probably part of it. But I think going back to what we talked about, what's so tough with all of this is I have days where I feel like he's helping a ton, and we're communicating really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have days where that's not happening, but that's life, and that's totally fine, and that's normal, and I do that kind of stuff all the time too. So I'm aware that, my reaction to stuff last night was probably because I was just tired and overwhelmed, and it had been a long day, and so, yes, the act itself frustrated me, but it was probably, I probably don't have as much patience sometimes as I should with the whole thing. And also trying to be understanding that I have done this for a long time. I have lived alone for a long time. I moved out at 18, moved across the country for college, and have never looked back, and have never gone home, have never, I came home for a couple weeks my first summer, but otherwise I've always lived on my own. I never moved back in, even summers in college or winter breaks or anything. So I've been doing this on my own for a very long time, so understandably it's second nature for me, and it's not for him, and I could definitely be a little bit more patient with that. And he's a man in his late 20s, so there's that.
Interesting. Well, what I'm hearing is that you've kind of done a lot on your own, moving away from home to go to school and never kind of going back. You just sort of have built this life for yourself, and now that you're sharing it with someone, you're running into some issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of them are probably my issues to work through, though, which I'm aware of. And in any relationship, you're going to have some of that, and you have days where it feels much more real, and then you have days where you can recognize aspects of it that are pretty trivial. But I'm aware that a lot of it's my own shit to kind of work through.
It sounds like you're very self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
You've mentioned that, well, maybe it's my issues,
Mm-hmm.
and I see that some days he's helpful and some days he's not, and some days I'm in a bad mood, or
Mm-hmm.
I feel overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like you are very self-aware, and
I'm working on it.
yeah.
Still think leaving groceries on the counter for that long is not my issue, but I think my reaction to it is definitely mine to deal with and could have used some improvement. But I feel like maybe his response to the whole thing, just like completely befuddled by why I would even be frustrated. I think that was maybe what I also reacted strongly to. I think I personally do a lot better when somebody just kind of owns their stuff and is like, oh yeah, oh my god, my bad. I got distracted playing video games, totally my bad. I could see how that would be frustrating. But instead it was kind of just like it's no big deal. Why are you so upset? That I probably reacted more strongly to, so yeah.
Have you spoken about this to anyone else? Has anyone given you any advice or?
Well, besides you as a counselor, another counselor perhaps that I've been talking to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this specific incident obviously just happened last night, but in general, no, I feel like I'm kind of bouncing some of this stuff off of friends and family some. But it really, when I'm able to take a step back and, and kind of word vomit all this stuff out right now like I'm doing, it gives me, that's why counseling's so helpful, it gives me perspective to be like, okay, take a step back, it's fine, like, it's just when you're in it, that's definitely what I'm working on right now, is when I'm in it, how to better approach some of these situations. And take a deep breath before I react.
That can be tough.
Yeah.
But it sounds like counseling has been helpful for you.
Yeah.
So far.
I think it really has. I think, it's amazing sometimes how much just hearing yourself say it out loud and work through all of it, how helpful that can be, with sometimes actually very little guidance from somebody else. I think when I'm able to say things out loud and work through them myself, I get to conclusions pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, some days it's easier than others, and this week has just not been easy for me to get there. So.
Sounds like it's been an overwhelming week.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that's been helpful? Maybe even, like you said, when you're in it. Is there anything that's been helpful there?
No, not really, honestly, right now. I think kind of what Jeff and I have been working on is just being able to have those conversations outside of the heated moment. And we have really, I think, made a lot of work with really strong communication outside of those heated moments. But there's definitely still work to do, like, when we're in that environment, because as only children who are both pretty stubborn, we don't back down easily sometimes. And that I think in those moments is where we really butt heads, because just neither of us want to back down
you're both only children.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I hear you saying that you're both very stubborn.
Yeah. In different ways and about different things, but yes, there's an inherent stubbornness for both of us, which I don't think just only children have, but stereotypically, yeah, only children tend to be a little bit more stubborn.